Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. GT is going to be joining us shortly. We have a special guest that is a good friend of Mark and I in about a half an hour. Marco, first name Mark, with Chuck in the background. My guy, the guy that carried my golf cart when we played. He was there earlier.
Okay.
At your son's wedding, or at your son's bachelor party the day before. What's up, brother? Good to see you again.
Got family in town. We're going to see my dad today in Fort Dodge. Chuck and I are, and then tomorrow we'll travel to Lincoln to see Jim and his family. And my sister's came across the ocean. She lives on the Isle of Man, so we haven't seen her since my youngest brother Mike's funeral, which was 7 years ago. So, yeah, it's nice to all get together and have a nice weekend.
Yes, it was fun to tell your brother how the fantasy football season's going so far. It's good to catch him up on that.
It was real nice of you.
It's good to catch him up on that.
You understand there's 3 against 1. I mean, I got 2 boys and me in this, and you're by yourself.
Right, and I'm beating all of you.
You're beating us all, yes. But think about that, David. 3 against 1, not good odds.
Apparently, it's not a problem. That's my point. I think you're talking about it in a different way.
I think I am.
So, anyway, let's start with U23s. So we're recording this on Thursday morning. The women's U23s is in the middle of all of it. So we are not going to cover them at all this week. We will cover them completely next week, just so people know. The Greco team, just to get this right, based on pulling up the article off of USA Wrestling by Gary Abbott, the man, United States placed 14th, 26 points, 4 wrestlers in the top 10. Peyton Omania 7th at 67 kgs, Colton Schultz 7th at 130 kgs, Camden Russell 8th at 55 kgs, and Philip Mooney 9th at 60 kgs. So obviously we would have liked some medals. I think Colton Schultz was the guy realistically that could have medaled, but won, then lost, and then didn't get pulled back through. To make sure one more time people understand this, if you don't make the finals, your guy has to make the finals, or girl, woman, depending on your gender. So, but your opponent has to make the finals, and the easiest way to do that is at least make the semifinals. If you lose before the semis, you are rooting for the person that beat you in the biggest of ways. So that did not happen. The women are doing really well so far. We can say this, kind of killing it. And Diamond Guilford's celebration after she made the finals was pretty freaking awesome. But we'll probably talk more about that with GT. What'd you think of the Greco stuff so far, Mark?
It's kind of like same thing, every year. We're going to struggle a little bit in Greco. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't know how you get it to change unless you put Greco into a youth program and kids stay with it all the way through, into the senior level. So it's just not our style of wrestling in the United States that kids flock to like they do freestyle and collegiate style. So, I mean, it is what it is. Our kids are out there performing. They're great athletes, but it's just it's a tough sport for United States wrestling community because we don't do it that often. So, I mean, we don't even start it normally until, Fargo. So it's tough. And you don't do it year round, David. We do it, when we can.
Oh, we've talked about this. Just, to say it one more time. Most kids in college don't do a lot of Greco because their coaches don't want them doing a lot of Greco because it doesn't help them for folk style. And college coaches are paid to win college matches, and that's how it is. And so until that paradigm shifts, it's going to be difficult. So Super 32s happened, tons wall-to-wall great wrestling. The results, I got them pulled up here on Flow Arena just to kind of walk through the high school highlights. Castillo from Valiant Prep beat Seth Mendoza 3-2 in the finals at 106. Bo Bassett beats Knox 10-5 at 113. Trying to make sure I can slide down and see the rest of it. There we go. Our St. Louis guy who's now at Wyoming Sem, Luke Lillidow, beat Jordan Rainey 5-4, really good match. Rainey had beat Jax Forrest earlier, who had beaten Lillidow at the Journeyman. So there'll be a change at the top of that weight class. Fargo champion Marcus Blaze takes 7th. Ben Davino beat Mason Gibson 3-1 in overtime, obviously a 1 takedown match. A couple Michigan kids did really well there. Braden Davis 3rd. Drew Heathis 6th. At 132, Lemley beat Brock Mantanona. And then my guy, Zan Fugit, was 4th. Kyler Larkin from Arizona was 6th. Just some names people might recognize. PJ Duke put on a freaking clinic against Vince Bouzakis at 138, Mark, 21-8, and was just a takedown, let you go, just get you exhausted kind of match. Were you able to watch that match with everything going on this weekend?
No, I did not see that match. I watched a lot of the earlier stuff. I watched Jax Forrest losing the quarters to Rainey. And, you know, that's just kind of his style of wrestling, David. I mean, he's going to get in positions that he's going to put himself, and he's young, he's going to put himself in bad positions because he's used to scoring off them in those positions. It's something he's going to learn. But you said something about the rankings there will probably change. I think they came out yesterday with the rankings, and they kept Jax Forrest number 1, Little Dolph number 2, and Rainey moved up to number 3. And I think the reason they did that is because Jax has had such a great season in the last 3 months. He's beaten everybody.
That's fair.
I think that's
they did change if Rainey moves up to 3, but you're right.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So
okay, fair enough. 2 Missouri guys plays here. Colin Arch 5th. Carter McAllister just wrestled in Border Brawl was 7th. Gilcher beats Dalton at 145. Joel Adams, the cadet world champ, takes 6th. That should tell you how good that weight class was. My guy Ladarian Lockett has now won Ironman, Super 32, and Fargo all in the same season. So that should tell you he's having a pretty good 12-month run. He beats Waters from PA in the finals 3-1. Joey Blaze from Ohio, 6-5 over Nico Ruiz. Joe Seeley, who is the favorite, takes 3rd. Max Magana, who's wrestled in Brawl a couple times, there's an absolute hammer, took 7th. Rocco Welch gets it done at 170, really having a good couple months here. Won the Who's number 1 and then wins this. 82, Ryder Rogotsky. If I saw this right, if I have it wrong, I apologize. I think he's the first Minnesota kid to win 2 Super 32 belts, so big shout out to him. Beats your guy out of Iowa 6-4 in the finals. AJ Haig, the transfer to Stillwater High School, and the new Oklahoma State commit, takes 3rd. Jude Correa wins at 195. Walters over Russo at 220. And heavyweight is always a little thin because of football season. And then one other note, Jacob Saunders, who's Josh's little brother, won at his age group, you know, when Jacob trained with us this summer at the St. Charles Wrestling Club. So shout out to him and his family. He's a little hammered. It's one of those kids that, like, it's hard for me to tell, like, at age group when you're watching somebody like, okay, is this kid good for his age if you don't know how old he is, right? Because, you know,
sure,
I'm bad at, but he's just good, period, and happens to be young. So he's one of those guys you look at and you go, all right, that guy's pretty good. So I don't know if I said this on the air, but I was at the IBJJF Pan Ams this last weekend coaching. So that's a very different culture. You know, they have age groups. There's 18 to 29, which is the adult, and then 30 to 34 on up every 5 years are the masters divisions, kind of like the Veterans Worlds, but it's 30, you know, literally up to like 60 years old. And it's interesting watching these guys fight or compete, whatever the right word you want to use is, because at that point in life, it's like somebody's like a computer programmer or an accountant or a train engineer, and they're doing this in their spare time. It's not their full-time job. They're doing it to stay in shape. They're doing it for self-defense. They're doing it to build camaraderie. I think a lot of people miss like the camaraderie of a team. So I want to give a shout out to Mark Ostrander, who wrestled for us at Merrimack, was an All-American. He is a black belt down at Gracie Richardson and let us come over and train with his other coach, Vinicius. Vinicius took third in his age group in the black belt division. Mark took first in his age group in the black belt division and third in the absolute. My guy, Michael Pixley, who's a name that most people know in wrestling and have been watching him kill people in these super fights. He took first in his division and first in the absolute. If people don't know what the absolute means, that means within your age group and belt, anybody can fight each other. So like a 190 pounder, 97 pounder can fight a 125 pounder. So he won both of those. And I got a chance to spend some time with Michael on Friday night after he won. And one of the things he told me was, like he's been killing it, Mark. And in jiu-jitsu or any martial art, you get promoted through your belts. In jiu-jitsu, it's white, blue, purple, brown, black, and there are stripes in between there. You get 4 stripes, and then when you get your 5th stripe, that's the bump to a new belt. Okay. And so Michael has been fighting at blue belt, and he's winning world and Pan Am titles, and people are like, well, you got to become a purple belt. If they promote him faster than 2 years, apparently he would lose all of his titles. So even if they want to promote him, they can't. So it's a very interesting thing between jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Like wrestling, if you're the best guy in the room and I walk in and I'm improving and I'm good enough to wrestle with you in general, they'll let you practice with you and definitely compete. In jiu-jitsu, there's rules about competing. Practicing, most open-minded coaches will let you do that. But I wanted to give a shout out to all those guys. And then 2 of my guys, Cusick Kim took 5th, kind of got hosed on a 0-0 referee decision fight. And Mario Millsap, the guy that I'm really close to, took 3rd, broke through at that level on getting a medal. So I'm proud of all those guys, and it was fun to see all those guys. And it was just a fun weekend, man.
Good. Nice to hear. But one thing you were talking about, David, is these guys that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are competing. And you said kind of some of the reasons they still compete. I think you kind of left one out. We're still competitive. As human beings, when you've done this pretty much your whole life, you still want to compete to see where you stand. And age doesn't change that. Now, whether or not you can physically do it does change it, but you still, in your head, a lot of these people think they can still do it at a high level. And, good for them that they're able to go out there and do it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I did it at in my 30s, and I think I got talked into doing it again next year, so we'll see. So but it's a very cool culture. So, and I want to thank those guys at Gracie Richardson, because they, when we got down there, they're like, they just invited us to the gym. Kind of a crazy story, Mark. When we got there, the gym was a little torn up because somebody was texting and drove their car through the front glass of the building. Oh. Nobody was in there when it happened. That's why I'm laughing. Like there was damage, but no injuries. Yeah. But my buddy sent me a picture of it like on that Monday. It was like, we'll figure it out, but it's gonna be a little tight. So
do not text and drive, please.
Yes. Please. And, hey, the very first Matt chat I did on USA Wrestling's platform, the guest was driving and FaceTiming, and Gary's like, they can't do that. Like you got to have them pull over. So when we had Fellers on, like I told them, I'm like, you have to pull over. So we are practicing, or we are preaching what USA Wrestling practices. So that's a good point. So I think GT is going to join us momentarily. But while we are waiting for him, let's go back to our picks. So at 157, it looks like Quincy Monday is going to come down there. So I think that'll change a couple things. Mark,
Yeah, he's going to be the number one. He right now be preseason number one. The way we would have ranked him, David, because he was second last year.
Right, for sure. I think most people plug him in at number one. So it changes, I think, though, like for our picks, how many of the top 8 would make it, and then at 57 and 65, and then your finalist picks. So, Mark, you had at 57, 6 of 8 coming in. So I'm assuming you're going to change that to 5 of 8, right?
Well, if we're going to add him to the weight and able to pick him as being in the finals, I still think I would go 6 of 8 because he's going to be part of that. You know, if you automatically put him in there now, he would be one of the 8 guys, and I would probably pick him to be in the finals. So,
okay, so that's fine. So we'll leave it. We'll do it on that. What I was saying was if he wasn't on the chart of 8, then, and now he is, you know, based on the chart we looked at. But we can do it that way. That's fine. It's not a big deal. Okay, so your finalists were Lee and O'Connor. Do you want to change that?
I would probably go with Lee and Monday.
Okay. And then I had Teamer and O'Connor, and I'm going to go Teamer and Monday. And then we'll get to GT and he'll let us know. So at 65, you had 5 of the 8. So would you now go 4 of the 8?
I would probably, well, it's questionable on my 5 because it's such a deep weight bracket. I'd probably still go 5, David.
All right, I'm going to go, I was at 7. I'm going to go to 6 because I had him as one of my guys. Okay. So, so we're going to go to 184 and do our picks here. I just need to slide this down. So here are the guys at 184. Brooks 1, Keckeisen 2, Heidley 3, Caleb Romero 4, Marcus Coleman 5, Trey Munoz 6, Jonathan Lowe 7, John Poznansky 8, then Keegan Moore, Gavin Kane, Hunter Bolin, Abe Assad, Isaiah Salazar, Tate Samuelson, Matt Feinsilver, who's transferred to Michigan, Travis Whitlake, who's up 2 weights, Travis Stefanik, Sean Harmon. We need to talk about Missouri at this weight class. Anthony Montalvo, the OSU transfer now at ASU, and the guys out at ASU love him. Pritz and Eric Thompson, Adam Kemp, Caleb Hopkins, Donnell Washington, who does have a win over Starachi in his career, Lane Malchewski, Will Feldkamp, Jacob Nolan, and down the line. So your top 8 are Brooks, Keckeisen, Heidley, Romero, Coleman, Munoz, Lowe, Poznansky. It's a pretty good top 8, Mark. Yep. So how many make it of 8?
I'm going to say 6.
Okay.
Are you share screening, David?
I have not, but let me do that. Hold on a second. I didn't want you to lose your camera time there, but that's fine.
That's okay.
So, couple things to talk about here. Montalvo transferring to Arizona State, we mentioned. Travis Whitlake is up 2 weights, Mark, from 65 to 84. He was super banged up at the end of last year and just gutted it out. They've got Plot at 74. I know he didn't want to make 65 anymore. I think he just kind of outgrew the weight. So they said he's gigantic. It'd be interesting to see him. And then Missouri has a lot of depth at 84. Jeremiah Kent was their starter last year and was around a 16 guy, and he retired. And then they've also got Colton Hawks on this team, who actually made an under 20 world team at this weight.
Yep.
And Harmon had some good wins last year filling in. So this is going to be a hard weight for any of those guys to medal. I mean, you got guys like Hunter Bolin, who've been ranked really high, Abe Assad. We know how good he is. Matt Feinsilver comes over from Duke. Adam Kemp had won at this, had a win earlier last year. I think it was over Foca at 74. He's up to 84 because they're moving Truax up to 97. And so down the line. So who are your finalists here? I'm assuming you're picking Brooks, and are you going Keckeisen or Heidley?
I'm going to go Kekheisen.
Okay. Okay. And then who is your non-top 8 All-American? So I will the sort of the suspects here that are like in that next tier: Keegan Moore, Kane, Bolin, Assad, Salazar, Samuelson, Fine Silver, Whitlake. You know, there's some good guys here to pick from.
There's a lot of good guys there to pick from. And I'm going to go with Hunter Bolin.
Okay.
Returning, he was a finalist, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I don't know if he's a finalist. He might have been, but he's definitely an All-American.
Yeah.
So
I know he's up there high.
Yep. I'm gonna go 5 of 8, and it's not because I don't like the top 8. I just think there's so many good guys, and you know, like Grant said, you don't ever see anybody go 8 for 8, but you know, maybe 5 for 8 is too low. I think you're probably right. I just don't want to pick what you pick because I'm going to pick Brooks and Kekheisen. And then I'm super prisoner of the moment on this, but I'm going to go with Montalvo. You know, I think he's closer to home. I think it's a better situation. So we are getting we're trying to get our guy to join in. I mean, if we have to, we can just put him on speakerphone. So let's do one more wait, and then we should catch up to him. So, and GT's having a computer situation. So, all right. So we are at 197.
You got to put in your guy out of 8, man. Who'd you pick? There you go.
Yeah, I scrolled it by accident. Okay. All right. Max Dean, Jacob Warner, Stephen Buchanan, Rocky Elam, Bernie Truax up away, younger Bastida, who apparently has been doing a lot of mat work this summer, not just takedowns, Louis Dupre, Michael Beard, the Penn State transfer, Gavin Hoffman, the surprise All-American last year, Nino Bonacorsi, a former finalist, Thomas Panola, Tanner Sloan, former age group world team member, Ethan Laird, former heavyweight, Zach Bronigal, who's up, I think, 2 weights from 74, Cam Caffey, who was ranked in the top 5 last year, Cordell Norfleet, who was ranked in the top 8, Luke Stout, Isaiah Trumbull, Jason Cardenas, Braxton Amos, Owen Pence, Luke Serber down from heavyweight, Evan Bachman, Jake Kozer, Michael Foy, who was just on the Greco world team. I feel like Jackson Smith, who made a world team. I feel like I need to take a breath here. So probably the biggest news at this weight class is no Ferrari. I mean, I don't know what will happen with him. I mean, he could come back second semester, but as of now, he's not on any roster. So there's your top 8, Mark. Dean, Warner, Buchanan, Elam, Truax, Bastida, Dupre, Beard. And then you've got a Gavin Hoffman. You've got Gavin Hoffman, Nino Bonacorsi. How many of these guys top 8 stay?
Wow. What a deep weight. I'm going to go with I'm going to go 5, David. Just because all the way down to 20, I could see somebody sneaking in the top 8. So I'm going to go 5.
I actually completely agree with that. I mean, it's just so crazy, right? Like this is a weight where I don't think Maxine gets enough. Internet had a very cool article, by the way, of how the guys ranked number 1 have done against the field. And it made you understand like why certain guys felt like locks, like they haven't lost.
Sure.
So and other guys have. So all right. Who are your finalists?
Oh, this is going to throw a wrench in the bucket. I might take Truex from Cal Poly.
Are you going Truex and Beard?
No, I'm going to go Truex and Bastida from Iowa State.
Wow.
I know it's crazy, isn't it?
You still allowed to go to Hawkeye country?
I am. I think Warner's going to be an All-American. I just think it's a really, really good weight, and it's going to be a real special weekend come the national tournament. I think it's anybody. This is up for grabs, and I just, for some reason, with the progress that Bastida's made, Truex, I was so impressed last year at nationals. His length, the way he wrestles, he's gonna do really well, I think, here. So this is kind of a throwing a dart with my eyes closed and hoping to hit the board. This is kind of the picks I'm making on this one.
Yeah, I'm taking Buchanan and Elam, I think, for fairly obvious reasons. I think Buchanan might be the best athlete at the weight, and I think he's just freaking good. So you got a lot of good guys here to pick from, Mark, that non-top 8. So who you got?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna
Hold
go
on.
I don't.
There you go.
Yeah, I know.
You're picking Amos, right?
No, I took him last year, and he did so well for me.
Yeah, but double down, man. Be committed.
I'm not that committed. I'm gonna go Tanner Sloan from South Dakota State.
Former Iowa guy, high school guy, right?
Former Iowa high school kid. Yep.
Right.
Really good on top.
Yes. So we get a chance to do the announcing for the Big 12, and that's probably the best weight, and it probably will be again this year with Wyoming, Missouri, Iowa State, and then South Dakota State on down the line at this weight. And, previously Ferrari had been there. I'm a little disappointed in you, Mark, that you didn't take Amos. Like I don't know. I'm going to go Nino.
Okay.
I think anytime you get to pick a finalist to just medal.
Yeah.
So trying to get our guy here to jump on this. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Hopefully he'll jump on here momentarily. So let's see what else we have to cover till he jumps on. So the other thing we're talking about, Mark, down the line is, and Flo's been doing a good job of publicizing this, but the NWCL All-Star meet's about a week or so, or a month or so away, excuse me,
Yep.
The 22nd of November. And it's good, really good that they brought that back. That's a traditional meet that had some great matches over the years. They did some interesting things like trying 3-point takedowns and stuff like that. But they got some really good matchups this year. And, they've been doing a good job of interviewing those guys ahead of time and setting the table for all that stuff. So I would imagine that that'll be pretty well watched. And I'm guessing it's going to be pretty well attended, don't you think?
I think so. They're going to do it down in Austin, Texas. So that's where Flo originates from. So it should be a great venue. And they're going to have men and women's, which is new because we've never seen that before. So that'd be really cool also. So, and I think they're going to have 18 matches maybe?
Something like that. I haven't seen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some great women's matches, phenomenal women's matches, and the men's up and down the ladder is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I know people are just dying to get back into the season and seeing these teams start going and, following things. I think the first big duel of the year, if I'm not mistaken, is, you might have to help me on this, David, Ohio State is wrestling somebody really good early in the year. I just can't remember exactly who it was. Was it Virginia Tech? What's that?
It's just like, you're going to have to help me and just give me like half of the.
I know Ohio State's got a really big deal early in the year that's going to be fun to watch.
I'm looking up their schedule right now as we're talking.
And it's early. I mean,
they wrestle VTech on November 11th.
So, and VTech's got a loaded team. So
I know. Yeah.
So it'll be fun to watch early in the year.
I'm going to see if we can get our guy on the line here. We'll see if this works. He was trying to get him into the Google Meet, but it wasn't happening. So we do have our guest here from Northwest College. I think a lot of people have seen this story about the grizzly bear attack. And I just saw it run across my Twitter feed, and I just text, oh, I think we're going to get him here. Hold on. Let's see if we can get him on the video. If we can, then we'll hang up the phone. I hit admit. There he is. There he is.
What's up, Bo?
How you
So
let me set this stage, David. Jimmy and I,
go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
very, very long time. Right when I started coaching, I was kind of a young kid. Jimmy was already a little bit established. He'd been there for a few years. We went to a tournament.
I'm older than you, and I'm not.
Doesn't matter. You were already established. I wasn't. We went to a tournament. It was my first year being a head coach. I think that I took a team to a tournament. I didn't know what I was doing yet. And we never had anybody in the finals. And we were ready to go home early. And we stuck around and watched the finals with the kids. And Jimmy and I, you know, as competitors, Jimmy made a comment about not so good for you guys this year, 0 for 10 in the finals. So, you know, but we became really, really good friends through the years, and I respect him probably more than, you know, besides your dad, David, obviously, Ron, who I really respect. Jimmy was a guy that I could talk to about anything and helped me through kind of a couple of tough times in my life. Got to spend some time with him out in Wyoming. But started going to Wyoming and wrestling in the Powell, Wyoming event that he had for one of his wrestlers that had passed away. And I think we showed up almost every year you asked us, Jimmy.
That was the epic because we had some battle royales there.
Yep. So I tell you what, his kids were good on top, David. Unbelievable on top.
They were good everywhere. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't think we've actually introduced him. Jim Zeigler, Northwest College. In case anybody hasn't figured out, coaching legend, especially in the junior college ranks, and also helped. He and I revamped the Colby Tournament of Champions one year in about 15 minutes in a coaches meeting. So, but we wanted to get you on today, Jim, to tell. I know you've been running the circuit. I heard you're on like Good Morning America and Inside Edition. So finally now you get to get on the biggest show, which is nice for you, I'm sure. So
favorite show for sure.
But probably the show you actually watch or listen to the most, since, you know, two of your boys are on here. So tell everybody what happened. I mean, I can't do it justice. So just kind of lay out what happened so people can understand.
Well, I can, tell you what I've heard firsthand from them. We had morning practice, 8:00. Finished up about 9:30. I'm talking to the guys. Hey, what's everybody doing today? It's Saturday, beautiful day out. What are we doing? And, four that are always headed to the mountains. We're going to the mountains. I said, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on up there right now because it is that time of year. Hunters are in from all over the world. It's just a busy time of activity in the backcountry. And so anyway, I said, you guys got orange, you got bear? Yeah, we're good, coach. And all right, So they take off and head up, and I got a call late that afternoon. God, I don't know. I think must have been 5:00 my time because the LSU game was on. I was sacked out on the couch and trying to relax on a Saturday. He came in, and one of them was August Harrison that called me, and he was in a vehicle en route to Cody, Wyoming. Some people were driving it. So he was hysterical. He said, Coach, are you sitting down? I need to talk to you. And I said, Gus, calm down, man. Just tell me. So he said, Brady and Kendall were attacked by a bear. Are they alive? Yes.
Last names real quick. For
Braden Lowry and Kendall Cummings were the two that were attacked. So he said, and he says, Brady and Ken were attacked by a bear. I said, where are they? Are they en route to a hospital? He says, Brady's on his way to Cody. They flew Kendall to Billings. Okay, I'll meet you in Cody. So they were about 30 miles that side of Cody. I'm 30 miles. So I got to the hospital about 5 minutes after they did. Brady was in the ER. He's doing pretty well. at the time. He he's looking at me. They were fixing and working on his arm and getting ready to start patching him up. Kendall had gone to Billings to the hospital, much more serious. So anyway, past all that, get to what happened on the mountain. Hiking, they split up. They were in two different ravines, and the other two had worked their way down the mountain towards the trailhead and were down close to the base of the mountain. The two that were attacked were still up on the mountain a ways. They were approximately 15 yards apart along a tree line, and started seeing all kinds of bear sign, scat, etc. And the bear just came crashing through. As soon as he said that, a bear came crashing through the woods and jumped on Lowry. And Lowry had an opportunity to say, "Bear, bear, bear." He couldn't get to bear spray, anything, but put him down on the ground, had him, mauling him, knocked him off a little ledge, like a 5-foot ledge or something, onto the ground, mauling him from there. The other kid, Kendall Cummings, is yelling, screaming at the bear, throwing stuff at it. This must have gone on for 15, 20 seconds probably, according to them. And the bear would not respond, would not get off of Lowry, had bitten through the bone on Lowry's forearm and crushed it, had a compound fracture, had him by the clavicle, and was, shaking him around. And Cummings went up and grabbed him and started grabbing at the bear and ended up grabbing at the ear. And the bear turned on him. And he took off, only made it a few steps. The bear had him. Mauled him, dragged him, stomped on him. Lowry was still down. Lowry got up and tried to call with a phone and moved on the mountain a ways, where you get reception a lot of times when you're up there high. So he got some reception, was calling 911, was trying to work his way down. The other two were at the base of the mountain, and they saw him stumbling and struggling and didn't know what the deal was. So they started working their way up, and he was yelling at them. So start screaming at him, "Help, help," and they take off and run up to where he's at. Get to him, realize he's hurt real bad, and he said, "Kendall's there, I don't know." So they said, "Give me the phone," because he was calling 911. One of them took the phone because Lowry was not well, and said, "Yes, this is, Orrin Jackson." And Orrin's a Colorado kid, and he says, freshman. He says, "Yeah, we're here. There's been a bear attack." They told him, he said, "Listen, head down to the trailhead, search and rescue. We'll meet you there."
And the kid, interrupt, the one kid's still up there with the bear, right?
Yeah. And Jackson and August Harrison, Orrin Jackson, August Harrison are the two that run up to him. So they're talking on the phone to search and rescue. They're telling them to go down to the trailhead, wait, people are on the way. And, the kids they didn't like that. They're like, "We're not doing that. He's still up there." And they said, "No, you have to go down. We'll take care of it." He hung up on them, and those two headed up the hill. And not very many people have been paying a lot of attention to what they did, but those two guys took off and went up the hill. They did have a pistol, but they went up the hill, not knowing what the bear was doing or if it was there, looking, hollering for Kendall. They got up a ways, and finally they saw Kendall had gotten up and was walking down the mountain.
The bear just stopped fighting him or whatever?
Yeah, the bear will hit you for a while, and then it'll leave. It'll hit you. It'll leave. They're not really trying to kill you. They just, when you stumble on them like that, a bear will attack you until they think you're no longer a threat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not looking to eat you. They eat other sources, but anything that gets in their territory, they generally attack you until you're no longer a threat. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's dead. That's why they tell you to play dead. But who can play dead when a bear's mauling on you?
That's like the dumb thing if a crocodile or alligator chases you to like run in a zigzag fashion. I heard somebody's like, "Sure, yeah." So, okay, so the two guys that went up the hill didn't have to fight the bear, but they were actually prepared to.
Yes, they didn't know what they were running into. And they got up there, they found him, they got him. They said, can you walk some more? Because he had sat down. He'd made it a couple hundred yards and he sat down. And so at that point, they said, can you walk? They were checking his neck and his chest, and he's, you know, covered in blood on his head. And at that point, they just started helping him down, and then he couldn't walk anymore. So they loaded him up and carried him and took turns carrying him. Got down to where Lowry was. They all made their way down to the road. Now, to give you kind of logistics, they were about 4 to 6 miles from the trailhead. At the base of the mountain was approximately 1.5 miles. When they got down to the road, there was still about 3 more miles to the trailhead. But as they approached the road, like a dirt trail that you ride on side by sides, there was a rancher that came by, and they were waving him down. Hey, you know, waving him down. And he stopped there, and they helped him over the fence, got into the side by side, and got the last couple of miles to the ambulance. Or to the road. Then the ambulance arrived, treated both guys in the ambulance, and Orrin Jackson was able to talk with search and rescue and pin and give them coordinates of where to land the helicopter, because there was a barley field not far. And then they transported Kendall over to there, and he was airlifted. So,
Zig, you know me.
Jim, how are the boys doing right now?
Traumatized. They're, you know, they are just like this right now. They can't hardly leave each other's side. You know, all the boys, the whole team's been like that. And, you know, Kendall was released from the hospital yesterday, made his way, or 2 days ago, I'm sorry, made his way to Powell and spent the night with his family. They live in Evanston, Wyoming, and they stayed in a hotel, came in yesterday morning for a couple of interviews. He's using a walker. He's beat up. He's, you know, here, injuries here, staples here. I had 60 staples in his head. And then cosmetic work done here on his cheek. Puncture wounds on the hands and the arm, on the shoulder, and on the hip. Not quite as bad on the hip, but his cell phone was in his pocket. And there's part of a bear tooth stuck in the screen of his cell phone.
Yeah, a literal bear tooth is in his cell phone.
A literal bear tooth stuck in the screen of his phone. His phone doesn't work.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows me, I'm very rarely speechless, but it's just, as a coach, I mean, I guess, you know, I put myself in those shoes. I did that for a lot of years. The first thing, you just make sure your kids are literally alive. And then what level of okay are they? I'm guessing your team is remarkably close now. However, if there was any sort of minor fissures in your team, you know, little clicks or whatever, I feel like that this has probably resolved any of that, and you guys are a squad this year, I would guess, and just how close you are, right?
Yeah, we're a squad with a lot of couples.
Yeah.
Squad. Yeah, they've all coupled off early.
Well, I would guess, though, that, I mean, anytime something has a bigger, like a higher calling, right, and you just get to see, like, I would think if nothing else, it, you know, people say all the time, like, you know, be happy you're alive, be happy you're here, be happy that you have these things that you can do in your life. I would think this would help these kids reevaluate things in a super positive way. I remember I was coaching in 2001 when 9/11 happened, and you know, back then you had to pay for long distance calls, and all the kids we had from out of town, I gave them each like $10, and I said, call your mom or dad tonight. And they're like, Coach, we weren't near that. You know, and I'm like, it just matters, you know? So I'm assuming these kids got a lot of medical bills. Is there anything set up to help them with that? And if the wrestling community wanted to help them, is there something that can be done?
Yeah, we've set up a GoFundMe through our Northwest College Foundation, and it's NW College Foundation.
NW, N is in North, W is in West, College
Foundation.org.
Foundation.org.
Yeah, then / wrestlers
Okay.
-medical -support. I know that's a mouthful.
Yeah. I mean, but if they Google this, like, how can I support the Northwest College Wrestlers? You know, I'm assuming it's going to pop up that way or something like that. So
I'm not sure. I've literally been so occupied with press and kids and, you know, just protecting them that I haven't managed that. Our athletic director, Brian Erickson, has managed that. I'm going to look into everything today. I know that they've had a lot come in, but you know, I've also had people that are like, hey, what is this? You know, how do we get to it? So all I can do really now at this point is just tell you what the site is. If you go to nwfoundation.org, it'll lead you there.
yeah. Okay. So we can skip the hyphens because people can find it from there.
All the hyphens. Just go to nwcollegefoundation.org.
nwcollegefoundation.org. So, you know, Zig, you were always good to me too when I was an athlete, and then I think I am actually a year or two younger than you. But you know, when we coached against each other and stuff like that, and, you know, we talk fairly regularly. I'm glad that we have this platform to be able to have you tell the story really to the wrestling community, and maybe to help raise some money for those kids. Obviously, you know, this is something that hopefully will happen. And I think it's, you know, like I was telling Mark, I was coaching at a jiu-jitsu tournament this weekend, and some of the guys that are ex-wrestlers that are fighting, they're like, man, wrestlers are built different. And I think we all kind of know that. You know, you got to be a little bit crazy and a lot of bit tough. And it is, you know, people talk about it, you know, there's that saying, you either talk about it or be about it. And clearly, you know, the kid that basically probably saved the other kid's life, or at least even more damage, knowing he was going to take damage. I mean, I think that's that kid's character, wherever he ends up working, they're going to hire a good one. I don't know what that kid's majoring in, what he's going to end up doing in life, but that guy is like, if you go, give me an example of when you were a team player, he's probably going to ace the interview, right?
Yeah, they say, okay, you got the job.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, I helped collaborate on an Excel document. I tried to kill a bear. You know, so I mean, I don't mean to make light of it. I just think what he did is.
No, we're at a point now where the boys are safe. We can, you know, we can smile.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to smile and know that they're going to be okay. They got a story to tell. Doesn't appear that there're going to be any kind of permanent damages. You know, in terms of muscle tissue or nerve damage or anything like that at this point. So it looks good. Lowry's going to be fine for sure. He's got a compound fracture in his arm, but they did a surgery, put plates in. You know, he'll be back at some point. Not to wrestle, but I mean, he'll be back to normal.
In life, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And they're going to have some pretty cool. You know how, like, we all got scratches and scars on us, and usually just from a fingernail and a takedown you lost. Like, the stories will be good with this one. It's a blessing they're alive, man. It's I'm glad, like I said, you know, we'd have tried to get this story on our airwaves no matter what, because it's really a story about toughness and wrestling. The fact that they go to your school and they're your kids obviously made it super simple to track it down. You know, please give those kids, you know, we'll keep them in our prayers. I think there'll be some mental recovery as well, obviously, right?
Yeah, we've got folks with them on that, and I talked to them last night, you know, quite a bit. We did have an open workout last night with some of the other guys. I was taking care of some things for the guys that were hurt, but yeah, I talked to them, and you know, those guys set a standard for us up there on the mountain. The letters, the cards, the things that have come in are overwhelming from junior high kids, from elderly folks, from the wrestling community. People are just reaching out and just admire the courage that was exhibited up there. And I said, gentlemen, that's the standard. What we saw on the mountain, or what these guys did, you know, that's the standard that we need to try to live up to every day in terms of brotherhood, our effort, our courage. Not everybody's going to be as brave as those kids were, but we need to be, as courageous as we possibly can every day and work hard at it. And it was emotional for me. It was difficult. The kids have really responded well, the entire team.
Courage is a word that gets thrown around a little too
Casually.
Casually, easily. And I think about the second kid and what he did, because there's a lot of people that just wouldn't do something like that. And it's different. Like sometimes you see a guy getting jumped in a fight and who jumps in, right? And this is that times 10, because deep down, hopefully those people in the fight have some sense of fairness. Like, okay, I'm going to stop. The bear, obviously not somebody you can reason with. So one more time, Northwest College or NW College or Northwest College Foundation?
NW College Foundation.org.
NW College Foundation.org. So we're up against it. So just stay on the line here. We'll sign off. For GT, who had technical difficulties this morning, for Mark, and for our guy Zig, it's good to get the gang back together, even if it's for a rough occasion. Always enjoyed the after conversation of the seating meetings. So for all of us, we'll speak to y'all next week. Thank you so much for watching and listening.